Hey guys, it's Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking about rogue decks. That's right, these decks are going to be awesome, it's going to be sweet, and by rogue decks, I mean one particular rogue deck, Deadguy Ale, uh, named after the company who made it, of course, Rogue, the Rogue Brewery, um, which is really good beer, by the way. I wanna get that out of the way. Rogue is great. Deadguy is really good too. So I mean, if you guys ever have the chance, it's kind of expensive, but it's pretty tasty. Definitely got a lot of stuff going on. But anyways, we're gonna be talking about the Black White Deadguy Ale. This was a deck from 2005, I believe, created by Chris Picula for the first GP. I think it was for Legacy GP Columbus. It was he actually lost in the finals to, was it John Sohn? It was actually really sweet. Like he even had like he I think he lost the game where he had a first turn plague. That was pretty sweet. But bad beats aside from the red tribe, let's talk a little bit about this deck. Um, Basically, it's a white black deck, and it's made from, well, due to like the nature of the format, we have most of the cards that were available, or at least decent approximations available of the cards that were in uh, Chris Picula's deck. So let's go. Let's get that's pretty good for us, right? You know, we definitely want to be able to port these decks over as much as we can, as fully as we can, and this deck is pretty sweet and pretty strong. So it's basically aggro control deck. It's very disruptive. I mean, you really just want to combine the best. The white doesn't have a ton of good spells, but the ones it does have things like Armageddon and Swords of Plowshares especially. I guess balance, although that's rightfully banned. I mean, you'll never see that come off anywhere ever. But it is all the really good white spells, all the really good black spells, then some good like white and black creatures. Um, Most of this deck owes pretty much a lot of its uh, cards to Apocalypse specifically, you know, from Invasion Block, because well, they didn't really used to do old back in old timey Magic, you know, ye old Magic. Uh, they didn't really do enemy colored stuff because the enemy colored ally color distinction was a lot bigger back then, which is, I wouldn't say it's totally gone now, but there's definitely it's definitely more or less vanished. Um, I guess it's pretty close to vanishing. It's almost gone. I guess I won't quibble over this, but yeah, basically, you owe most of your spells to Apocalypse. You got Vindicate, Verdict, Spectral Links, things like that, and you got some good creatures and stuff like that. So you can, you know, you want your creatures to be good, and the deck's not super fast typically. Well, it can be a little bit, you know, but it's a little slower, a little bit more. I don't want to say mid-rangey, but it's not as fast as the old Suicide Black decks from Vintage, where they had to be, you know, going up against these sort of like Neo Academy decks and tricks and all that other stuff. But we can afford to be a little bit slower here. Although depending on the metagame, you can play different cards and, you know, like main deck negators and stuff like that, and change it up a little bit. But so yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So, look at this stuff. This is all sweet. Um, Again, due to the unique nature of the format, our mana, normally mana isn't super good for these kinds of decks, for the enemy color decks, but because of Torment, which is a black heavy set, they have the Tainted Field in there, so we're able to support a heavier splash of white, where it's really like a secondary color, even though it's just like a black deck mostly, because you want a ton of black mana to fuel Nantuko Shade, because basically once you have enough black mana with Nantuko Shade outside of like something that out and out kills them, like it just basically crushes every other creature. And that's pretty sweet. You'd be surprised how good this is. I remember playing Nantuko Shade back in the day, and he dominated the battlefield. Like, unless they had like some sort of, you know, regenerating blocker and you didn't have a removal spell or something weird like that, pretty much went to town. So that's really what we want to do. I think emphasizing the power of Nantuko Shade is pretty sweet. Although I could see maybe playing another planes or so, or maybe I need to play another land in general. I'm not 100% sure, but this is pretty close to I think what the mana should be like. I haven't tested this deck too much yet, but it seems to be okay-ish at this point. Um, yeah, again, you want Hypnotic Spectre because he just crushes decks. Like, think about going first turn like Spectre and then just getting them every turn. Just Ritual Hypnotic Spectre. That's nostalgic. Um, Again, you can play stuff like Negator in the main, depending on the um, what your metagame you expect to look like. Especially just like first turn Negator is just enough to kill someone by himself, and a couple of Thing of Disruption, unless they're playing like an aggressive deck, it's gonna be lights out. Speaking of disruption, we got all sorts of disruption. Like I said, Swords, Duress, Verdict, Vindicate, all good stuff. And then of course Scroll is pretty nice in the late game, just for picking off dudes and going to the face. And of course Phyrexian Arena is another draw engine, and it is very excellent at well, being a good card to rid out on the first turn. So that's pretty sweet. So let's see. Look at the sideboard again. Got the classic Enlightened Tutor sideboard, which I think is probably what we really want to do here. Um, Due to we don't really have to side out too many cards, because something like Vindicate is just so good. It is never dead, and it kills creatures, and it just just nukes everything. And like I said previously, even a lot of the combo decks will sometimes play creatures, so Swords isn't even dead half the time. But you do want to make yourself a little bit better. You can switch out the Exalted Angels for negators against a lot of the combo or some of the control decks. Um, but stuff like Perish and Disenchant. Let's see. I guess, yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess that's mostly all the non-tutorable stuff, and of course all the tutorable stuff for Enlightened Tutor, Null Rod, Sphere of Resistance, Sabo's Web, Absolute Law, Warmth, Engineer Plague, all this good stuff. Yeah, nothing too weird there. You can play like oh not the Seal of Cleansing. There we go. You play Seal of Cleansing instead because it's a little bit cheaper. Well, you can tutor for it. Uh, so instead of Disenchant, you play that. But it's nice to be able to switch stuff up, keep them guessing. So I think Disenchant or Seal is fine. But yeah, most of the stuff again, you'll understand where it's coming from. Sapo's Web is for stuff like Landstill, and Absolute Law and Warmth, of course, are for all the red decks. Plague for all the tribal decks, which there's at least a couple, three or four. Um, Gosh, yeah, Parish for the green decks. I kind of wish they could, fit another Parish in here, but um, that's okay. No biggie. No biggie. Because if you get into a top deck war with some of these green decks, just start slamming fatties on you, and it's hard to keep up because unless you're ahead on board or something, or you got like a shade and a bunch of mana. So that can kind of sometimes be a problem. Um, but but so Um, Basically, you can pretty much answer anything. I guess outside of spells on the stack, but you can deal with any kind of permanent, any creature. You can really just basically do about anything. Um, Even it's like oh this dude is shroud. Well, you can even board in something like Chainer's Edict or Diabolic Edict, of course, to deal with stuff like that or whatnot. So all sorts of great cards to board in, a really flexible main deck, so you really shouldn't be having too many bad matchups. You won't, or at least you won't be dying to like, oh, I can't answer like enchantments in the main deck or artifacts in the main deck or whatever. You should be able to beat up on the combo control decks pretty well. That's pretty much what one of the better reasons to play the deck. Just play a threat and then just ride to victory while dressing and verdicting and wastelanding and all that stuff. Sideboard should help you against the red decks. Those can be pretty painful. That's why playing main deck Exalted Angel instead of like Negator or something. Who's obviously better to rid out, but you could even rid out an Exalted Angel on the fourth turn, I guess. Shoot, that's not even a bad play against something like Sly. I'd probably do that. That'd be sweet. Gotta love that because really, all you really need to do is even pre-board is just like get an Exalted Angel in play, and then attack with it once, and you should be okay. Um, Post-board, you have to watch out for Sulfuric Vortex. But other than that, not a biggie, not a biggie. And then so yeah, the most of the main deck cards are super uh, good at answering a lot of different stuff, so you can have more precise answers in the sideboard with your Enlightened Tutor board and stuff like that. Stuff like Sphere of Resistance, things like that you wouldn't typically see. I mean, maybe even I don't even need the Sphere of Resistance, but it's nice to be able to have stuff to board in against some of these combo decks if they are creatureless or something. So yeah, Spirit Resistance is pretty powerful, especially combined with Wasteland and all the hand disruption and everything else, and with the clock. I mean, definitely is really good against a lot of these combo decks. So, but yeah, there's tons of different options for your sideboard. It depends on what you think you're going to be playing against. Um, at some point, I'll have to make a thing about like what sideboard cards are good for each color. Maybe I'll do that for one of my next videos. Anyways, so that's pretty much. I mean, yeah, you're not gonna have too many. Even against like the red decks, you can still get openings where you're just like duress, verdict, or something, and just get them down to nothing, and then um, you know, just sort of curve out in a way where you're able to beat them up. Um, but overall, yeah, you want to watch out for the red decks. So being able to board stuff for those is pretty nice. But yeah, the combo control decks, being able to beat those up is really good. You don't really want to have to. That's kind of the crappy thing about this format is there's so much weird stuff, and you don't even know what to do. Um, Especially against like some of the board control decks, you could even play Armageddon or something, which would be kind of nice in the sideboard. That's another option. But enough with that. Bam! Look at this. Now I know you guys have been thinking like, why is this guy talking about arranging his swamps in any particular order? That doesn't make any sense. Well, here it is. Here, we got the one on the top, that's correct, going from left to right, chronological order, from the earliest one to the latest one. Does that make sense? That's beautiful. The one on the bottom is not how you do it. You'll get a game loss. That's terrible. Don't do that. But you should play all these swamps. See, all these swamps look great. Look at that flower. Got the flower, onslaught flower. That's beautiful. I love it. This is a good one. So anyways, this is how you should, because I'm going to be doing so many of these black decks. I've done a couple of them already. So you want to know how to put your lands, arrange them on the table so they actually look good. And the lands themselves already look good. So, you just got to add that finishing touch. I mean, you'll win every game you do this. Trust me. I would never totally make something up. All right, guys. So that's basically it for today. This is just a little thing to give you a little extra edge in your next matchups. But I hope you like the deck. I think it's pretty sweet. Um, it's good to have another reason to cast Intuko Shade and Gerard's Verdict and Vindicate and stuff. So it's pretty sweet, pretty sweet. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and have a great day.